Welcome to The Explainer. I'm your host, Beth. Today we're tackling one of the most exciting, but honestly, absolutely critical decisions you're going to make as a new beekeeper, and that is choosing your beehive system. Now, I know it is so incredibly tempting to just order the first beautiful wooden box you see online and figure out the rest later, but our goal in this explainer is to help you find the perfect hive system for your body, your goals, and your specific location completely dialed in before you buy a single bee. Okay, let's dive into this. A beehive isn't just a wooden box where bees hang out. It's really a long-term, heavy equipment ecosystem. When you choose a hive, you're literally locking yourself into a specific workflow, a specific set of tools, and some very real physical demands. So you have to ask yourself honestly, can you safely lift 80 pounds? And no, that's not an exaggeration. A full box of honey is incredibly heavy. So we really need to look at how different hive designs handle that weight and how they're going to impact your daily workflow. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. Section 1, choosing your hive system. Section 2, Langstroth, the US standard. Section 3, 8-frame versus 10-frame. Section 4, alternative hives and law. Section 5, flow hives and normal care. And finally, Section 6, making your final decision. Let's kick things off with Section 1, choosing your hive system, more than just a box. When you're choosing a system, you aren't just buying some wood, You're actually buying into an entire network of parts, practices, and local support. Before you even start looking at cool hive designs, you've got to recognize the constraints that every single prospective beekeeper faces. First up, there's the long-term ecosystem. Like, will replacement parts be easy to find in 5 years? Then, think about nucleus colony, or nuke compatibility. Commercially available nukes usually come on standardized frames, and if your hive doesn't fit those frames, well, installing your very first bees becomes a huge headache instantly. You also have physical lifting limits to consider, which we're going to talk a lot about today. Plus, you need to know if local mentors actually have experience with the hive you choose. And vitally, you need to check whether your state inspection laws even allow it. So yeah, this decision matters immensely. Moving right along to Section 2, Langstroth, the US standard, the reference point. So the Langstroth hive is pretty much the reference point for almost all beekeeping in the US, and its entire system relies on this brilliant little concept called bee space. This is a highly precise physical gap, built right into the dimensions of the hive itself, that keeps the bees from cementing movable frames together with honeycomb or sticky propolis. And if you don't know, propolis is basically nature's superglue. Because the bees respect this bee space, beekeepers can vertically stack boxes and effortlessly remove individual frames to inspect the colony without destroying the nest. It's just a wonderfully modular system. And this brilliantly illustrates why most beginners just default to the Langstroth system. Because it's so modular and standardized, it has by far the largest body of US classes, books, and club mentors available to help you out. Commercial nukes drop perfectly into these boxes. Things like covers, feeders, and queen excluders are incredibly easy to track down. And if you have multiple Langstroth hives, you can actually swap frames between them if one colony happens to need a little help. The trade-off, of course, is that inspecting the brood nest means you have to physically lift off all those upper honey boxes to get down to the bottom. Which brings us to Section 3, 8-frame versus 10-frame, the ergonomic deep dive. Let's see how all this builds on the physical realities of the Langstroth system. Now, a huge point of confusion for beginners is what frame count actually means. Listen closely here. Frame count describes the width of the box, not the depth of the frames inside it. An 8-frame setup is a narrower stack. It's really favored by weight-sensitive hobbyists, though it often results in a slightly taller hive overall. A 10-frame setup is wider, giving you maximum standardization and the absolute broadest local part availability. But here's the critical takeaway, guys. A mixed inventory of 8-frame and 10-frame parts is totally not interchangeable. You have to pick one width right out of the gate and stick with it to keep your apiary standardized. Let's put some exact real-world numbers to this physical strain using published estimates from Dedant, which is a major supplier. A fully loaded 10-frame deep box weighs approximately 80 pounds. Even an 8-frame deep hits around 64 pounds. If you're lifting that from shoulder height, it is a massive ergonomic strain. Because of this, many beekeepers eventually try to avoid lifting full deeps altogether. So choosing your box width isn't just an equipment preference, it is absolutely a health and safety decision. That takes us to Section 4, Alternative Hives and Law, Horizontal Top Bar and Warré. So for those of you who look at an 80-pound box and say, absolutely not, no way, there are definitely other options out there. The two most popular alternatives are the horizontal top bar and the Warré hive. A horizontal top bar hive is exactly what it sounds like. It's one long box where you work entirely at waist height. No heavy supers to lift at all. But the comb hangs naturally without side supports, which means fresh comb is incredibly fragile. It can easily snap off if you handle it wrong. Then you have the Warré hive, often called the people's hive. This uses a narrow, compact vertical stack and follows a low-intervention philosophy where you add empty boxes to the bottom, a practice called nadering. But that can mean awkwardly lifting the entire heavy stack of the hive all at once to get a new box underneath. The big caveat for both of these systems, they really lack US standardization. You're going to need deliberate, specialized local support if you want to succeed with them. And we have to talk about a very serious legal consideration here. Because our sources at Blackwater Honey are based in Virginia Beach, we've got to look at local law. Virginia Code Section 3.2-4403 legally requires beekeepers to provide movable frames that can be removed without injuring adjacent comb. Because top bar and some traditional Warré hives use unsupported comb that can accidentally attach to the sides, they might not actually satisfy the exact wording of the law. So before you spend money on an alternative hive, you must confirm its exact configuration with your state apiarist. Responsible beekeeping means legal beekeeping, folks.
Let's move on to Section 5, Flow Hives and Normal Care. The reality check.
Okay, it's time to talk about the hive you have probably seen all over social media. The marketing for flow hives is just incredible, right? And to be completely fair, what flow frames actually do is really neat. They literally allow you to drain ripe honey directly from the super without needing a conventional, messy extractor. But we really need to separate the internet hype from reality here. A flow hive is just a Langstroth hive at its core. You must still do all the exact same heavy lifting and regular maintenance. You still have to inspect the brood, aggressively manage varroamides, prevent swarming, and feed the bees when necessary. It is absolutely not some magical, maintenance-free honey faucet you just plug into your backyard.
Finally, Section 6, Making Your Final Decision, the Beginner Framework.
So, the crucial point is, how do we pull all of this together? You need to run through this exact checklist before you click Buy. First, what do your local club mentors overwhelmingly use? If they're all using 10-frame Langstroths, you should really strongly consider doing the same unless you have physical limits. Second, can you safely lift the heaviest component of the hive when it is totally full of honey? Third, will the nuke you plan to buy transfer cleanly right into it? Fourth, can every single brood comb be inspected safely? And finally, is it legally compliant in your state? Let this checklist be your absolute ultimate guide.
But wait, actually, hold on a second. Let's say you decide the standardized Langstroth system is completely perfect for you, and you've even chosen between 8-frame and 10-frame widths. You still aren't done. Choosing Langstroth leaves one more massive physical and financial decision on the table: box depth. Are your boxes going to be deep, medium, or shallow? How does that choice alter the weight and the interchangeable nature of your entire apiary? Well, that is exactly what we're going to unravel in our next explainer. Until then, think really carefully about what you want your beekeeping reality to look like. So, what's it going to be? See you next time.